One Piece chapter 1021 is out, and even though it's not a rooftop chapter, the fight does not disappoint. In fact, outside of the rooftop itself, this is probably my favorite fight so far, because I'm pretty sure it just finished up, and I think what we've seen in this chapter alone has been better than some of the setup and build up for a lot of the other fights. But before we dive in, let's take a look at the cover story, because I think that's also important. For this week, we get Franky and Senior Pink crying over a drink. This is a nod to the Senior Pink and Franky fight in Dressrosa, where at the end, when Senior Pink is knocked out, he's also crying. And Franky basically asks him to tell him what he's crying about over a drink. So that's what this is here, and I love a lot of the Franky interactions with just solo people, like Franky and Senior Pink, Franky and the Toy Soldier, especially in Dressrosa, there were a lot of those. Just the way Franky kind of interacts with people is always interesting, and it just builds a fun part of his character and the story. So seeing it in a cover story, love it. The chapter starts back with Robin and Black Maria, and Robin's immediately going on the move. She starts using Sea Serpent, and again, the way Higanti Floor is set up and the way it looks, it reminds me a lot of Netero and his Buddha. It reminds me a lot of Hashirama and his wooden hand jutsu. It reminds me a lot of those just because of the way it moves. Like, it's not as intricate or drastic as it, but it definitely uses the same kind of inspiration. And now generally when Robin does the giant moves, it's a lot of limbs built up into one. And I'm seeing that that's the reason why a lot of her limbs here are moving like snakes or serpents, is because it's not just, one solid bone and arm, it's a bunch of arms together. Now we immediately get reintroduced into the glaring weakness about Robin's fruit, and that's that even the limbs she blooms can take damage. And when they do, that damage goes back to her. So she's actually making herself a lot more vulnerable by creating giant limbs, by giving herself openings that will directly go back to her. Black Maria wastes no time kind of taking advantage of that, and we get to see a lot of Black Maria's utility, which kind of covers a wide variety. She's got poison on her limbs, she's got webs, she's got this weapon that at some point was creating fire but isn't really doing that now. She's got illusions, she's got a lot going on in her kit. And a lot of her moveset has Maria in the title, so it's taking her namesake and kind of putting it to whatever she's doing, like Hush or Chain. However, at the end of the day, and something I really like about Black Maria, is that she just puts on the brass knuckles again and she starts going ham on Robin's face, which we get to see. We actually see Robin taking damage. It's been kind of a consensus that Oda doesn't like showing women taking damage in his fights, and if he does show it, it'll be after the effect. We won't actually see any connections. I'm wondering if he sees the clone as kind of like an excuse to show it. Like, it's not directly Robin, it's Robin's clone, so it's okay. But the fact of the matter is, we still get direct punches of Robin to her face. Since she's taking a lot of damage in the giant form, she switches back to using just hands, but eventually Maria kind of gets onto that as well, and she has Black Cage, she sets her webs on fire. Basically, she's adapting really quickly to Robin's moveset. Now, as Black Maria is wailing on Robin, she makes a comment to Brook that maybe he should be there helping her. And Brook makes a comment about Maria should be the one who doesn't want to be here anymore, because it's about to turn out bad for her. Now, I assume Brook doesn't know what Robin's about to do. I think he's just that confident in Robin's abilities that he thinks she's got this. And that's just how the Straw Hats operate. If their friends say they're going to take care of something, then they're like, alright, you got it, it's fine. Now, something I didn't expect was a flashback of the Revolutionaries with Robin. We get to see her training with Koala, with Hack, and with Sabo. Basically, they're talking about Robin's current fighting style and how it's strong, but they want her to have some extra stuff in her moveset. Now, Koala talks about teaching her Fishman Karate, while Sabo talks about teaching her Dragon Fist. And we see Robin use Fishman Karate, we see it blatantly. And the thing we don't exactly know about yet is if she's using Haki in any way, shape, or form. My argument is yes, and that's because Sabo is here too. Sabo also wants to train her. He's not a user of Fishman Karate, and he specifically said he wanted to train her the Dragon Claw Fist, which is a Armament Haki move, meaning if he wants to teach her that, he has to teach her how to use Armament Haki. And that makes sense if she gained, we're looking at Sabo and we're looking at Koala. She gained 2 moves from each of these teachers, and we see what Koala's move is. We see the Gigantium from Robin, which is obviously named after Fishman Karate, so we see that. And then we see Demonio, which looks a lot like a full Armament Haki, or at least partial Armament Haki giant clone. Another thing we can look at is if we take a look at the panels in which she switches to the Demonio form, we see that when she's starting to grab Black Maria, her limbs are still white, they're still pale. And even when she's setting up the leg to do the neck snap, it still looks pale. In the final shot, however, everything looks darkened and colored in, which usually is an indication of Armament Haki. So I'm wondering, why would they show that switch? It can't be the lighting, because Robin is the forefront of this, and we see the clear kind of light shading of her arms and limbs in the previous panels. So I'm really guessing that this right here is a use of Armament Haki. And I feel like it makes sense with Sabo being involved with her training. Now, if this is the case, I'd be really excited, because I have been wanting Robin to use Armament Haki since the time skip. I feel like it's the perfect addition to her moveset, and I feel like it really makes everything she can already do 10 times stronger. Just imagining Robin having Armament Haki and being able to, even if she's like holding low gate users, if she's trying to do a clutch with Armament Haki boosted on that, it's insane. And honestly, with all the Toby Ripple we've been fighting, this is the first fight where I'm confident in that the Toby Ripple is down. Like, I don't think Black Maria is getting up after this. There's something to be said about Sasaki and Who's Who still being up and ready to fight, even Page 1 and Ulti, because we don't know if they've been knocked out, but I feel like Black Maria is done here. I also like that Robin has embraced the kind of devil child or demon child Nico Robin epithet and is using it as a part of her fighting now. Because it reminds me of Chopper when he said he'll become a monster to fight for Luffy. Basically, Robin's saying here, I'll become a demon. And I like when the crew takes these leaps into what people call them, how people see them. And like, if that's how you see me, that's fine. As long as I can help the people I care about, I don't care how you see me. And once Black Maria is down, we get a clean shot of Brook taking out the rest of the fighters, including a number. And he does it with relative ease, which kind of surprised me at first, but this is Brook. This is MVP Brook, who was running through Whole Cake Island, making everyone look like scrubs, because that's what Brook does. Basically, this is seeming to be like a one-shot, or at least a really strong move, because it takes out 3 of them, like I said, including a number, who we know are strong. And at first I was debating if he's putting them to sleep or fighting them, but if you look at the kind of like the necks, the bodies, you can see the ice slash kind of going along them, so it looks like it's a full-blown attack. After this, Robin and Brook reconvene, and Robin mentions that she kind of overdid it a little bit. And now, for the most part, I don't think Robin has a stamina issue when it comes to using her power. We've seen things like when she's using the wing, that she can't hold it for very long. Like, she had 5 seconds when she initially used it. She's elongated that, but still there's obviously some kind of limit to what she can do. But as far as being drained, I wonder if that's a different story, and I wonder if that leans more to her overusing Armament Haki. Now, the second big chunk of the chapter takes place at Tokage Port, and we basically find out that Caribou has been holding a bunch of food in his body because he has a swamp salt fruit. So this is basically Luffy's recharge session. Now, the Heart Pirates are asking Luffy about what's happening to Law and everyone, but obviously Luffy's in the middle of eating. He's not making any sense for what he's saying. So basically, we're not going to get a whole big update on that. We're just going to see when Luffy's ready to go back up. However, we do get an interaction between Momo and Shinobu, and it looks like a lot of the theories out there in which Shinobu was going to end up using her fruit to age Momo might come true. Basically, Momo is making the request for Shinobu to age him up, make him an adult so he can actually do something, because he wants to help Luffy, he wants to help the samurai, he wants to do something, and he wants to prove himself. But he feels like he can't do it at this stage, and I agree with that. I don't think there's much he can do as a kid. Like, he can put on a brave face, he can be bold, but I don't think there's much he can do in the way of this war. Shinobu mentions that even if she does age him up, his mentality, his heart, he's still going to be a child. It's not going to mature him, it's going to mature his body. And that immediately brings a ton of questions, because how does this help exactly? Because we don't know exactly how old he's going to go for. We don't know how it'll affect his strength or his dragon powers. Basically, I imagine he's going to be a bigger dragon, and I imagine he's going to be stronger, but how does this transversely affect it? Because what we've seen, the mature fruit kind of ages and withers things. It doesn't exactly strengthen anything. And I don't think him being aged up like this should give him a significant power boost. You know, he shouldn't be able to stand toe-to-toe with Yamato or Luffy or any of the Straw Hats. He should still be fairly weak as a fighter, and I don't think he should get any stat buffs like that. I think he just has more power at his disposal. I think at this point, once he's aged up, he should be able to hold Onigashima up or at least do something to prevent it from crashing into Wano. And I think that's truly the end goal here. I don't think he is being meant to fight. I think it's solely for the purpose of keeping Onigashima from falling on Wano. I also think this is a good time for Yamato and Momo to have a talk, because once Luffy gets back up, it's probably going to be a 1v1 at some point, which means Yamato can take the time and tell Momo about his dragon abilities. Because if we remember earlier, Yamato was the one who was telling us that dragons have the ability to hold up or fly with fire. So if Yamato has the knowledge of dragons and how they work, it'd be easy to explain this to Momo. A fantastic chapter in my opinion. We get a full-fledged fight from Robin, no off-screen, we get to see the whole thing, we get to see some new moves, we got flashback to Koala and Sabo, we have a Momo trying to use this fruit to age up, theories being proven, new theories being created, such a good chapter. Let me know what you guys think down below. There will be a poll in the description as usual, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.